and adjust these settings since I don't have the microphone anymore.
Still not working?
No, give me a
Did,
second.
did you try recording or doing voice check on like your work laptop or something?
No, I haven't got a chance to do that yet. So probably one more week of this type of audio, hopefully.
Thanks for tuning in to Yappin N Shxt, where we as brothers and friends hop on the mics and have conversations. Sometimes they're serious, sometimes they're not. Sometimes we react, and sometimes we just yap. We appreciate you tuning in and hope you enjoy the episode.
How's it been, man? How's you got this whole week off? What's going on?
No, just my original plans were that this week had been kind of crazy to begin with, right? So originally I was supposed to fly down to San Diego,
Yeah.
and I was gonna have like the whole, basically I wouldn't say a whole week. I was gonna leave like Friday last week and then come back today, technically. Um, and then those plans ended up falling through kind of last minute, because then it got super hectic because I was supposed to fly to San Diego, but then we got invited to a wedding after I had made my San Diego plans. So I was going to then fly up to Seattle for the wedding and then fly immediately down to San Diego from Seattle
Yeah.
and then fly back into Sacramento from San Diego.
Yeah.
But San Diego stuff ended up dropping, so we ended up just staying until Monday in Seattle, which is fine. Um, and then kind of leading up to the trip up for the wedding, I got news, unfortunately, about like so my for those who listening, you probably don't know this too much because we don't really talk about it, but my aunt has cancer.
Oh,
So she's had cancer
sorry to hear, man.
for 2 years, 2.5 years since she was
Yeah.
kind of diagnosed, and had gone on to chemo. Um, so it's a pretty aggressive, from what I was told, it was aggressive form of cancer that there's not really necessarily a cure for, just because it's on her spine,
Hmm.
or spinal cord. So the fact that they were even able to, keep it going and all that stuff, because when we had talked originally ironically at my cousin's wedding, um, 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
It was like they were going to go on chemo, but they weren't sure what that looked like. So
Yeah.
she's been on chemo for the last 2 years, but they made the decision like it wasn't working this last iteration of the treatment. So that she had two options. There was one, um, just one thing of testing that they could do, or she could just live out the rest of her life happily without the chemicals and everything kind of tearing her body apart
Yeah.
in that regard. So she made the decision to, she's like, nah, we're done. We're just gonna go as long as I can without it
Yeah.
and go from there. So it was, so we learned of that decision. Ironically, how I learned about it was just I was happened to look out for, or I was looking at images and photos and stuff as I was kind of going through some of the stuff in her place, kind of organizing a bit, and I saw some pictures and was just like, oh, I hadn't really talked to her since the wedding, so I'll reach out to my cousin and see how she's doing, because I don't have direct contact with my aunt. Like
Yeah.
I just don't have her phone number. Um, so I reached out, and then she gave me all that updated news and everything, and she said like they're having like a celebration of life for her while she's still
Oh,
around,
wow.
so she can
Yeah.
kind of last see her family and all that stuff. Ironically, that was on Saturday, the same day as the wedding. So as everyone kind of understood, I basically I missed the first portion of the wedding, so the ceremony and stuff, so I could go spend that with my family,
Yeah.
and see my aunt kind of, for the last time, I would say. I know it sounds morbid saying that, and it was very
Hmm.
morbid kind of leading up to that day, because like knowing that that was the last time you were probably going to see someone,
Yeah.
because every time everybody says like, oh, you never expect that to be the last time you saw someone because
Yeah. Yeah.
death obviously happens. But I think it's kind of one of those things like you going into it, it's very like surreal in the sense of that this is the last time I'm likely going to see you because I live in a different state.
Hmm.
Um, and it's not like I live down the street anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah. So kind of going into it, it was kind of like obviously it was a little tough just because it was like, damn, this is actually the last time I'm going to see you. And that sucks.
Yeah. That does.
So
That does
yeah,
suck.
so luckily this all kind of worked out very like fortunate. The timing of everything, I guess. As weird as that sounds, like San Diego canceling, the wedding happening, and then um I just happened to be in town for all of that. So it kind of worked out. But
Yeah.
but when I had put in my time off, long backstory there, when I put all my time off, I was supposed to be back in the office Thursday. So we flew back Monday. So I got basically 2 days of just
Yeah.
chilling. I did have to go in for one meeting yesterday just because it was kind of a big meeting that got
Yeah.
scheduled. So I was, I went in for an hour and a half and then I left. But that one I didn't mind because I did want to make sure everything was good for this weekend because this weekend's also, alumni weekend for this campus. So you have a bunch of alum coming in for different celebrations and there's a couple of events happening. Um, and some of the people on our campus are a little confused about a lot of things a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
so I went in just to make sure like, look, are we good? Because I'm out for the next couple days. I need to
Yeah.
make sure everything's good by Thursday when I come back.
Right.
So that's why I went in. But I digress more. I'm here just chilling because originally I had through today off. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep it because I need time away from this place.
Yeah. No. No, seriously, man. I mean, sorry with your aunt and but sometimes uh kind of on a different topic, sometimes the unexpected day offs are needed because it's like one of those things where we forget uh I know it sounds selfish, but at the same time, we got to take care of ourselves too. And so it's kind of a blessing in disguise that you have these days off, not having to do much, right? Because sometimes you just need that moment to kind of take care of yourself, even though it sounds selfish, but because you're like, well, um, because you kind of have that imposter syndrome, right? Like, why do I get a chance to relax when someone like I care about is literally dying, right? Um, but you can't really be there for yourself or others if you can't take care of yourself as well. And so it's one of those, pull and pushes of life. So it's kind of nice to get that, even if unexpected or unplanned relaxation time off for yourself. So hope you're doing that, man.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And just
Yeah.
kind of just resting just because like there's been a lot of weekends too where I've worked, so like this is kind of like regaining that time back even because I have to be on campus this weekend. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but it also just kind of like you said, sets your mind straight and makes sure you check
Yep.
your mentals and all that stuff,
Yep.
especially with everything happening.
We got to.
Oh
That's the only
yeah,
thing
for
that keeps us
sure.
sane.
Oh
Yeah.
no, for sure. And unfortunately, like I'm gonna have to fly back up um at some point. I don't know when, but at the time that she made that decision, the doctors only told her she had maybe a month max kind of thing.
Mm,
So
yeah.
it's been a couple of weeks since that decision. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, timing's going to be who knows. Um, but I'll be back up at some point, probably in the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, um, for that. So that's
Yeah.
going to be tough. But it's one of those things. It's family. So
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, hopefully yeah, keep me updated if you come back in town.
yeah, no, for sure. I might.
Yeah.
I'll have to hit you up because I don't know if I'll have a not to say like, hey, can I stay with you? But
Yeah, yeah. No,
I
I
might
mean,
need
yeah.
a spot to crash for a day.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you driving up or are you flying in?
I would probably have to fly up.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me know ahead of time and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, for
you
sure.
can
Yeah.
just give me a text or something.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah,
no, for sure. It's gonna be one of those. It's one of those things, right? It's gonna be unexpected but expected. So like I don't know obviously when that's gonna happen, but
yeah,
I'll keep you updated and everything, and I'll keep anybody else who's listening updated if they want to know updates on that. Um,
for sure.
but yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, keep me updated and we'll talk more about it offline.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for
but
sure.
other than that, man, I mean, uh, yeah, not much. I don't have much new news. I mean, obviously, we don't talk about politics and everything here, so we're not going to go into that. Um, just gonna send a little, hope that everyone's, yeah, I mean, we're, everyone kind of in the lower southeast, with the hurricane and stuff. It's kind of crazy event to see. So hopefully everyone's doing okay there and making it out. Um, yeah. Other than that, I mean, nothing too crazy. Uh, Sports talk, I guess, could be another thing. Um, yeah. 49ers and Seahawks play this week. We'll see how the Seahawks turn things around. Other than that, man, besides sometimes like we say, sometimes episodes don't have to be anything crazy or anything that we got to react to. Sometimes it's just nice to check in with one another and and keep things short and sweet, making sure we're all doing okay mentally, and spiritually. You have any topics that you've been dying to want to share or anything?
I had a couple in mind. I just can't remember
Yeah.
them at the moment.
Oh,
I know, right?
well,
It's one of those
don't
things.
say it. Yeah,
Yeah, obviously, other outside of the hurricane stuff affecting some people, especially on the
yeah.
East Coast and whatnot. I mean, you've got to fly back to the Midwest this week, right? So
Yeah, yeah. That was
how was the family?
good. Yeah. Honestly, it was fun. Just had a good time hanging out with each other. Had a wedding we went to. Um it was a quick trip, but it also felt long because we did a lot, right?
Right, right.
Um
Yes, looked like you did a little bit more touristy stuff this time around,
yeah. Um yeah, well,
at
the
least for
first
that
day.
first day, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, we went to a roastery, Starbucks roastery to be exact. Which is funny because living in Seattle or living around Seattle, I've never been to the Seattle one yet. So Chicago was the first
the
one.
the
Yeah.
reserve.
The reserve,
Yeah,
yeah, the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
roastery
yeah. I got
reserve,
you,
yeah.
got you.
But no, it was a cool experience. And honestly, man, you're a coffee connoisseur, so you know what our take on Starbucks coffee is. So I won't say it out loud, but
Yeah,
the going to the roastery, or not the roastery, the reserve, you could tell the quality is significantly
it's
higher.
so better, so much
Yeah,
better,
so
man.
yeah. So we had a good time doing little touristy things, but then that just kind of hung out with the family. I gotta say though, uh the flights back and forth was super smooth, and quick, which from what I remember, typically going to Chicago from Seattle, you're looking at least a 4.5 hour flight. And then coming back because it's going against the wind, typically is an additional half hour. So it's like a 5 hour flight. But
Hmm.
both ways was an hour quicker. So going to Chicago, we got there in 3 hours. Um, and coming home, we got home in about a little under 4 hours.
Hmm.
So I don't know what's going on. Maybe that the captain was just flying much quicker than I was ever used to. Because I go out to Chicago at least once a year in the starting from the past 10 years, right?
Yeah,
And this is the quickest I've ever experienced going and coming from Chicago, and um, so it was pretty nice.
yeah,
Um,
that's nice.
yeah, yeah,
I know it seemed even my flights seemed like they were like pretty smooth. Um, Good man, flying into Seattle. Sometimes Seattle is just a mess still.
yeah.
That's the one thing I'll notice.
It honestly, yeah, it wasn't bad this trip both ways. Like Seattle was, we had a red eye flight going to Chicago. Everything was empty, and we have TSA pre-check.
Yeah,
It was to the point where we didn't even need to use TSA pre-check because there was literally no lines at any gate. Even the departures getting us to our drop-offs, no traffic.
Nice.
It was so weird because Seattle is actually getting very worse lately because of all the construction
All
and
the
everything.
construction, man.
But no, dude, it was super smooth when we got into Chicago. And usually, it's very busy as well. Empty. When we were waiting to get picked up. Yeah, I mean, it was like early in the morning, but
Yeah.
still, there was like no waits. And coming home wasn't even that bad either. Everything was super smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say leaving Seattle was easier. Just
yeah,
because, because we flew Alaska, but where they have their like new baggage drop and stuff
yeah,
on that second like Skybridge level, super easy to get in and out of instead of that top departure level where it's just shit show.
yeah.
So leaving Seattle was fine. I think getting into Seattle, that was kind of a mess just because they told us three different carousel gates for our one
Oh
bag
yeah,
because
yeah,
obviously it was a wedding, so we had to pack a suit and a dress and all of the
yeah.
things. So we had to go to three different baggage claim things, and the things that they had on the boards were at the complete opposite end. So we
Yeah,
started at 10, and then the board said 3, and then when we got to 3, nothing was there. So then I
yeah.
pulled up my phone, and then it was like, oh, it's at 14. And I'm like, that's the opposite side. So that was a mess. And then, dude, when we have to fly
Honestly, man.
home, yeah,
Yeah.
it was one of
Honestly,
those things.
yeah. I would
Uh,
say the thing that I did differently this trip that I would recommend from now on, if most major airlines has this, but if you do, download the app
oh yeah, yeah,
every
yeah.
time you're traveling.
We have the app. Yeah.
Yeah, and usually I don't. Usually, when I make purchases, I just after I check in, I email myself the boarding passes, put it in my Apple Wallet. That's it. But
Mm,
what I've learned recently in my past couple trips is downloading the app not only makes it easier to check in, but
yep.
also makes it easier to know down to the second if your gate changes, or anything significant changes with your boarding pass, or even like Delta kind of had a delay, but we took United to go to Chicago. It was very quick at letting us know your checked bags as is at this specific
Yeah.
or area. Delta kind of took a second, but it still did the same thing.
Yeah.
Because yeah, honestly, that's another traveling tip that I didn't even realize.
I was like, where you been
Um,
at, man?
I know, dude. Honestly,
I was like,
honestly, it was my
you
first.
travel enough to you
I
should have the app.
I travel enough, but I don't use the app until
That's fair.
recently, and I'm
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
it is the biggest lifesaver. Um,
It
and
is.
also TSA pre-check is fucking amazing. Like,
Yeah.
um, because this is my first trip I actually had to use it because I just got it recently.
Oh, okay.
Um, Dude, it is a lifesaver. I
So
mean,
nice. It's so
you don't
nice.
even have to take off your shoes, your watches,
Your
jewelry,
bell, nothing.
your
Yeah.
belt. The biggest thing too, you don't have to take out your
Laptop,
devices. Yeah,
electronics. Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing is devices for me
Yeah.
is the most annoying thing.
Yep.
Um, because like, not only do you have to take out the devices, they require their own baskets or not to be covered. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
pain because let's say you're traveling, you're packing lightly, you just have a backpack and a jacket. Instead of being very quick where you only just grab one little basket, put all your shoes and stuff on there, you have to probably grab three,
Yeah.
two to three, because each of your laptop, Kindle, iPad, or whatever needs its own separate container. So it's just very painful. And then TSA pre-check, it's like, nope, we don't give a shit. Just leave it in
Yeah.
there.
Literally
Yeah.
just go. Like they scan it and everything.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So it
Welcome,
so
welcome to the
I
new
know,
age,
dude.
my brother.
Yeah, it's honestly, dude, man. Like I said, we were fortunate that both going to Chicago, so going through SeaTax TSA and then going to Chicago's TSA weren't busy at all. Well, okay, Chicago kind of had a line, but either way, we did TSA pre-check both ways. Honestly, man, I've never went through TSA or sorry, TSA that quick in my life. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here. So
Yeah, right. Hey,
yeah,
it's a big difference. I've had it for
yeah.
years now, and it's just so much easier. I mean, obviously, if you have a jacket, you typically have to take your jacket off, but that's
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
but that's
That's
nothing.
it. You don't got
Yeah,
to worry about anything else. I
yeah,
always just do the thing where I roll my sleeves up, anyways, just to be like, all
yeah,
right, I have a watch.
Yeah.
just in case it goes off, just
Yeah.
FYI. But
No, for me, what I did both ways because we checked in our bags, so all we had on our carry-ons was just each of us had a backpack, so it's super easy. We didn't have a check or carry-on bag. So for me, I kind of put like my wallet, phones, and stuff stuffed in my jacket, anyways, just to make it
hmm,
easy to find again, so that I don't have to worry about it getting stolen or lost or forgetting to pick it up. So
yeah.
stuff everything in my jacket, take my jacket off, put my backpack in, super easy.
Yeah, whenever I
So
go, like I have a routine when I get to the airport, right? I pull out my ID from my wallet and
mhm.
that's it. I put that is the only thing that lives in my pocket. And then I put everything else in like my backpack or the
Yep.
bag I'm traveling with just to put it in that front pocket. That's all it is. Phone, everything is in there because they don't do anything. All they do is check your ID now. When you go through security, they don't check your boarding pass or anything. At least they haven't in a very long time for me. So all I do is when I get to the airport, I pick everything, put it in after I like if I check in a bag, you obviously need your boarding pass. But after that point, like I put everything in my bag, walk up to the line, give them my ID, and then I put my ID in my front pocket of my bag. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. So like I've gotten down, to the routine of things. And it's kind of funny sometimes when like I'm just moving and the person in front of me in the TSA, like you could tell they haven't traveled in a while because they're like, oh God, I got to take everything out. I have like everything in my pocket.
Hmm.
I'm like, come on, man. I'm just trying to get to my plate, my
Yeah.
my gate. Um,
Yeah.
but no, it is funny. So like, but yeah, but to your point, like with the app and everything, that's what I ended up going to because you know the intercom said one thing, the board said another, and then I was like, "There's nothing here." So I pulled my app up and I just refreshed it, and it was like at Carousel 14, and I'm like, "Son of a bitch, that's on that far end of the thing."
Yeah.
Um, but no, that was really the only, well, I not to say the only hiccup. That was the hiccup at the airport. Now that we have to travel in, and I will say the last couple times we've been up, I've drove or I've driven. Um, and it's just because this was a quick trip, we didn't drive because the driving
Yeah.
takes a day. Um, the rental car situation at
Yeah.
SeaTac is absolutely horrible. And maybe it's because it is how Budget and Avis run their business, and it's more quantity over quality.
Yeah.
Um, but goddamn, we obviously rented because that's the cheapest, and that's a partnering rental company with both our
Yeah.
works. Um, so we did that so we get our discount. So we, obviously pay a good rate. We get there and the line is like fucking hella long.
Jeez.
And dude, and that's the thing. I don't know how they run their business, but there was no manager on site, or at least if there was, they didn't want to come out and talk. They made the gate agent talk to everybody. They're
Yeah.
like, just a heads up, we have no cars. We expected to have 190 cars back by 8 p.m. today. Mind you, this is 11:30 p.m. when we were checking all of this out. And he
Yeah.
was like, but none of them came back in, or some of them extended. So we have one 12 passenger van. That's all we have. And I'm like, and this is why, like, I'm like, how do you mismanage your inventory that bad or play
Yeah.
with a margin that small to where
Yeah.
you're just expecting? So, like, to me, I'm just like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Uh, but to the point, quantity over quality. So we were just like, what the hell? And then the other two that I typically would go through, like Enterprise or Hertz, both of their like desks areas were closed
Yeah.
um, for the night. And I'm like,
Of
okay.
course. Yeah.
So then there was like this one company on the far end. It's called Sixt. If you've ever seen it, if you ever rent a car, it's
Uh.
SIXT.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. Yep. I heard of that. Never used
it's
it, but I heard of it.
yeah, it's just on the far end. And so I was like, what the fuck, dude? And mind you, this is not the first time this has happened when we've come back into town to
Yeah.
rent a car. This is actually like the third or fourth time. Luckily, the other time they did have a car, but it was just we ended up switching it out at a different budget or Avis rental spot because it's not what we ordered.
Yeah.
So we just went to one in like Tacoma the next morning and got a car that we actually wanted.
Right.
Now for this trip, we went to that other rental car and they're like, look, because Allie has fast break as part of her thing, which is the like you go instead of waiting in a line, you actually go down to the cars and you just there's an area that has like pre-selected cars. You just go to
Right.
those, grab your car. She went down there just to check, no cars. in the lot for budget Avis, and she looked over and saw hella cars for the sixth company. So she
Yeah.
came up and she was like, I'm just gonna go talk to him. I'm like,
Yeah.
please do, because I'm not trying to get stuck here. And luckily they were super friendly, and they were, just the more presentable too, right? They're all in like
Hmm.
suits and ties and stuff over there, and no one's over there. So we go over there and we're just like, they were like, we can't price match or do any of that stuff, but like, here's the rate for this car and da 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 da. And then I'm still standing in the budget line just in case. So she calls me
Right.
and she's like, it's gonna be only like $25 more than what we were paying. And I'm like,
Oh,
fucking book it then.
yeah.
so
Seriously.
we so we ended up getting a car, and then got to our hotel and stuff. But that is probably the worst part of the trip for us, was the rental car situation. But that's also been the worst for the last 3 times we've had to rent a car, unfortunately. So we might just be switching our loyalty to a different rental car company or something, or just trying to figure out a rental company that's not at the airport. The only
Yeah.
issue is the time we fly in is usually in the evening, so most of the time that's the only one that's open. But that was probably the most headache inducing situation of that entire quick trip up, was just that situation. But if they can improve that, that would be great. But again, I don't think Budget and Avis are going to change their business model at all here at this point. But
Hmm.
just my bemoaning of those companies. But I think that's a thing everywhere, though. I feel like,
Right.
because when I had to fly down to San Francisco when I first started this job, like Budget and Avis were kind of in the same situation. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, but Hertz was too, and so I
Yeah.
digress. But yeah,
So,
that's kind of
yeah.
that's the nightmares of travel, I guess, in those regards. But
Hmm.
you kind of get used to a lot of traveling and all that stuff. And Allie's going to be flying up more often. She can tell you guys, but she got an opportunity with work where she's going to be doing some training stuff. So
Oh, nice.
starting pretty much
Good for her.
next year, she flies up at
Yeah.
least once a month to Seattle.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah, so
Um,
more airport time.
yeah.
Yay.
All right, man. Well, any final thoughts? Final thoughts before we wrap it up and call it a day?
um Nah, I think we're good. Sports are sports. I think
Yeah.
football this week was crazy in a lot of different ways. Um, Also, yeah, what about Robert Sala getting fired from the Jets? five
Oh
weeks.
yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
And he's a good coach, but we'll talk about that next
yeah,
time. We'll see what it
it's
shakes
one of
up.
those things. I have a strong inclination that a
I think we all do.
defensive coordinator might get fired somewhere, and he might be
Yeah.
going to wherever that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cough, cough, Miami, cough. Um, so who knows? Who knows? For those listeners that reach the end of our episodes and everything, you can check on this too, Steven, since you have YouTube Music or YouTube Premium.
Hmm.
We should be featured on YouTube Music now as
Oh, nice.
as a podcast. So
Yeah.
that was one of the new integrations recently. So we should be on YouTube now too. I mean, we were on
Love it.
YouTube. We have a YouTube
Yeah.
channel, but
Yeah.
now there's like the podcast section of the channels and everything, to where our show should now pop up on YouTube Music instead of just going and watching a video. So something to consider if that's where you listen to your music. People that don't use Apple
Hmm.
Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, any of those other things.
Yeah.
But this was kind of their integration because Google Podcasts went away. So now they've kind of built it into YouTube Music and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
anyways, that's a little plug for us. But other than that, no, just keep yapping and whatnot.
Keep yapping. And thanks, man. That's like we say, like we're like end off with signing off with our favorite saying, keep yapping, keep talking with each other, keep thinking together, keep growing together. We'll see y'all next time.